Ladies and gentlemen, I am Pearl Thusi, the real Black Pearl Mama Panther in the building. And you can see my attitude today is a little different. Usually I'm coming with the, guys, it's so exciting, la la la, la la la. But no, I'm bringing one of the realest in the country. And I'm so excited to have in conversation today the incomparable, the incredible, the amazing Lorcia Cooper Khumalo.
Oh my gosh!
Did you ever have like an imposter syndrome thing? Did you ever question that, you know, whether or not you're supposed to be here or you deserve this because you hadn't trained specifically for acting, or that, you know, that maybe you should just stick to dancing only?
You know, it's interesting that you say, the one part of that question really hits me hard. When you say, do you feel like you shouldn't be here because you weren't trained for it? Even to this day in my career, I ask myself that question because I am my worst critic. I really, really am my worst critic. And if I don't deliver what I know I'm capable of, I'm really, really hard on myself. I'm learning how to be a lot more gentle with myself with regard to my craft, right? So for a long time, I did feel that. Like, so if someone had an opinion about my work that was maybe honest to them but hurtful to me, I would definitely go into that place of like, you are not good at this because you didn't train at it. And I'm learning now to embrace that sometimes you can do all the work you want, but self-belief is something that you have to do for yourself.
You took a break from the limelight to raise her. What a decision. Like hectic. A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. It was at that point in my life, I think, that I just felt I needed to regroup and I needed to redefine who I wanted to be and what I needed to let go of and what I needed to keep. And at the same time, I think the roles that were coming up, I just felt weren't for me, you know? I just think like I'm not big on call roles. So like you have 5 calls in a show that's running for a year. I'm like, no, like, I'm at a point in my career where I'm selective and even more so now about my roles, you know, where, like, for example, I just spoke with my agent recently and I was like, I can't do any more traveling roles. So I can't be away from home for long periods of time because my kids are teenagers and in 5 years, both of them are at varsity. I have such a limited time to just get the most out of their teen years. And I feel like in teen years, there's so much that kids go through with regards to character development, their influences and how they start expressing themselves. I want to have my finger on the pulse with my kids.
You spoke about having a thyroid.
Yes.
I don't want to say disease or problem, a thyroid condition.
So I'm okay with calling it a thyroid disease because for me, through this process of being diagnosed with Graves' disease, I've learned that disease broken down is dis-ease. And yeah, so why is my body creating this dis-ease? I'm still on the journey of absolutely finding the resolve and the solution to how to, I've gone through so many processes, right? So I went the Western route and went onto Western medication, came off that, and I was healed. Then my thyroid relapsed and it actually manifested itself in my eyes. So there was a time in 2017 that I couldn't work for 6 months because my eyes were double the size. They were popping out of my head. And I was on so much cortisone that I was not well.
How can we expect anyone to respect us if we cannot respect each other? It's really important that we acknowledge each other's pain without comparing and attacking, because I'm choosing to share my story as well. You know, I think it's so important that people are reminded of who they once were or whence they came from, right? And you were talking about some stereotypes that colored people themselves need to rid themselves of, or things they need to re-educate or understand about themselves to move on. Like, for example, wearing baggy pants for anyone who's been in prison was because the clothes didn't fit, so you just kind of made it look cool and then it became a style or a fashion. And there are similar things that could happen, I think, across the board in all race or cultures or traditions. For you, what are some of the things that you want colored people to know that maybe they should let go of, or maybe they need to understand exactly where that particular thing comes from?
One of the things that I did a lot of research on is the front teeth missing thing, right? Colored people weren't alcoholics to begin with. They were introduced to alcohol to sell their land. So the trade to get their land from Khoi people was to introduce alcohol to them, make them addicted to alcohol, and then take their land from them in exchange for alcohol. So when you want to call colored people alcoholics or addicts, again, understand where that was introduced. My people were never alcoholics. When we talk about the front teeth being missing, there are two facts that really stood out for me when I was researching it. And the one was, part speculation is that colored people's front teeth were removed so they could stop speaking their mother tongue. And it was a way to help them it was a way to rid them of their culture. So if they couldn't speak their mother tongue, they had to learn English to be able to communicate, or Afrikaans to be able to communicate. The other thing was that Khoi people didn't want to be sold into slavery. When slaves were picked, the value of slaves were determined by their dental hygiene and their dental health. So they would remove their front teeth so that they wouldn't be forced into slavery, because then they wouldn't be a valuable slave.